Hello and welcome back. If you are new to the channel, I make one game a month and this is my devlog. In my previous release game, The Last Mob Witness, I used a very simple shape to show the player and the enemies, and this time I'm gonna turn them all into pixel art style animations like the ones shown here, all in 1 month. So this is my journey on how I am turning this to this. Two weeks ago, I started working on Blender and learned how to make a donut, and after that I was able to make my first animation, an idle animation. So I have to design a complete workflow from idea to production to get the sprites from 3D environment into my game. One of the things that I found difficult is to have multiple animations in one scene and be able to achieve the same transition pose to all the other animations and get them chained together. One way I found to solve that is by using the non-linear editor in Blender. Let me show you how I created over 400 frames of animations for one character. So in Blender you can use actions to define, for example, an idle animation or a sword attack animation. You can create all those animations separately, one at a time, by creating a different action and copy paste the initial bone setup. Once an animation is created, I go to the non-linear editor and line up every single animation created, one after the next one, like this. You can see a very large list of animations, and since I set up all of them to not overlap on top of each other, each one run independently. So all the animations can be rendered in one go. Since I have over 40 animations at this moment, I do not want to render 40 separate instances. This is something that I struggled in another game, where animations were set similarly, one after the other, but each one interfered at some extent with the next one, creating a very different workflow, so I had to separate them a lot more. Blender has this non-linear editor that actually makes this process very easy. So this is how it looks like in-game now. I can switch between many animations to test, but there is much more work to do. At this moment, each frame has the same duration. It means all of them run between the same time. For some actions like being idle is fine, but some others like attack with sword, the motion should be slower and faster in some frames, so you can really feel the motion impact. There are two things you can do to solve that. One is to go back to Blender and adjust the timing of each frame to match the final feel, so you can have a uniform frame rate through all the animations. This will require to adjust all the animations and see them in-game to test if they feel right or not, and if not, go back to Blender and adjust the timing. And in some cases, I will have to duplicate frames to match the expected duration in some poses. This can be very time consuming, and this will also require to render again sprites. The second way to do this is to make each frame have a custom duration. Since the key poses are in general correct, I can adjust the transition speed between frames, so I can show some frames longer than others, for example anticipation, and show less the in-betweens, and then stop at the end to see the result more clearly. This will be more helpful for attack animations, so this week I will create a new frame editor to edit the timing. I have created this basic framework for this second method by having Excel files with the durations for each frame, and I need to add the editor in-game so I can adjust them on the fly. Also, many poses do not look right. For example, when looking at a walk animation aligned in 3 dimensions, it will look bad when seen in-game. That's because the view in 2 dimensions is quite different from reality. So in this example, you can see the front of the body when walking in 3D, but in 2D you will not see it because it's on the side. So in order to see it properly, you need to turn the body to point to the camera. So this is how it looks like from another angle. The chest is not pointing in the direction the character is walking. In 3D it looks bad, but once put in the 2D world context, it looks right. This means you need to animate from the camera point of view all the time, so the rendered image will always look right even if the pose in 3D is awkward. Now I can render all the animation frames in one go, and I can adjust the character to wear any color and add other distinct features easily, like hats, uniforms, or other things. The next step is to review each of the frames and prepare them for the game import. I got all the frames like this in my computer. I still need to edit many of the frames in an image editor, because not all of them look right out of Blender. I still need to figure out how to improve the quality of the render. For example, animations with lot of movement between frames tend to look very good in general, but for those with minimal movement like idle, you can see that pixels do not properly align. That's because we are rendering 3D objects in very small resolution, so some pixels will not properly align to the desired output, causing some pixels to pop up more than it should be. For example, the feet here, it has one extra pixel at the bottom. I still need to find a way to fix those in 3D, so I don't have to remove them in an image editor. The easy way to fix those minor things is to paint or remove pixels in an image editor. So far, I haven't seen anybody yet able to solve this issue. So, once all the sprites are fixed, the next step is to package all the frames into something that can be used by the game. In one of my previous games, Junkcraft Armada, I have a very similar workflow to package and edit each sprite, but it used to take a lot of time to package each individual animation, to put them in order and save each file into a group of animations. This took hours each time, so I had to improve the workflow much more with the tools I have, and I came up with a better solution. While trying to find inspiration, I started to look at the sprite sheet atlas from Dead Cells. A sprite sheet atlas is nothing more than a file with all the sprites packaged into one file. That makes it easier for the video card to process and render in your game, since it needs to swap less between textures to draw what you want. My first iteration was to put all the sprites into one texture without any order at all, and this is what I got. All the sprites into one texture, but as you can see there is a lot of empty space. This texture is 2044 by 2044 pixels inside. I think I can do better, and after looking at the Dead Cells sprite sheet, which has almost no empty space, I created a package tool to trim all the empty spaces and put all the sprites in the best possible way, and give me an XML file with the positions of each sprite, with additional information so I know where is the center of the sprite as it was initially intended. With that, I got a 1024 by 1024 sprite sheet with the same number of sprites, 1/4 of the previous size, and I get the same output on screen. This means I can put about 4 times or more sprites in a similar file. I saw many people aligning their sprites manually in their own image editor, like Photoshop for example, but for me, that takes too much time and effort. Being able to package everything into one file in the most efficient way without having me to do it manually accelerates the process greatly. Finally, all the sprites are in one file, and now I need to map each sprite to an animation. In Junkcraft Armada, I had all the sprites aligned and grouped together, so it was easy to manually define each animation cycle, but it required me to pack each animation into groups. This time I'm not packaging them into groups. It took forever to do. So I need another file to tell me what is mapped to which animation. Since all the frames are numbered and I know the frame numbers from the non-linear editor in Blender, I can easily create this Excel file where I can define the frame number start and end and the default duration. Later in game, I will alter the duration of each frame so I can adjust the flow of the animation. This easily saves me days or weeks of work compared to my previous workflow. So I had to spend time creating this tool to package my images the way I wanted. I think it's worth the time invested on this tool to simplify the workflow as much as I can. Let me know in the comments below if you find a better way to improve the workflow. It takes a lot of time and effort to put sprites into a game, but once they are in there, the job is not finished. Still, there is much more to do. And that's it for last week's progress. Thanks for watching and see you next week. But before we finish, let's see what is this week's quest. If you like this video, click like and subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. See you next week.